Yesterday, it looked like the 49ers were just meeting for the first time. Like it was the first day of training camp. They knew the importance of that football game and they didn't rise to the occasion. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of Jerry Rice, the GOAT. I got my guy Crock here. Give us 17 seconds when we talk about this game.
Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws. And the 49ers have won the Super Bowl.
And now your host, Ryan Hensley.
Now your host, Ryan Hensley.
Crock, what's up, big dog? How you doing, man?
I'm probably doing a little bit better than the 49ers, falling to 3-4 on the season. I don't think any of us foresaw this coming. So I'm excited to get into that and see where the 49ers are headed.
Yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about. I guess let me just get your instant reaction, just your overall reaction to the game yesterday. Let's start with that.
I'd say disappointing. You know, I thought the 49ers against the Kansas City Chiefs team is that a team that figures out ways to win. You kind of got to blow them out because if you don't, you let them hang around, or at least they let you hang around. But the closer the game is, I feel like the more comfortable they are in that environment. And the 49ers, I felt like early on had opportunities to try to, take the air out of Kansas City, especially on the road, right? You're playing on the road. You're playing in the heat. Your sideline is standing in the heat. And you come out, you try a fake punt. That doesn't work. You throw an interception early on, get an interception later. And the 49ers offense didn't make Kansas City pay for any of that. So I think there was a level of frustration for me with the offense and just their inability to really kind of get that monkey off their back against a team that continues to show that they dominate them, whether it's physically or maybe even mentally on the field.
Yeah, man, I think that's why it's frustrating for me because I actually predicted they were going to lose. So I'm not surprised they lost. It's in the manner in which they lost. Like they scored 18 points, 28-18, but really that was 6 points during junk time. It was really a 28-12 game is what we saw. The 49ers didn't score more than 7 points the entire game. It's just like you can't give us a better battle than that. That's what was frustrating to me, man. And really my biggest question for you, brother, like that I want to start off with, I got the thumbnail is Kyle Shanahan on Andy Reid's shoulders. Basically, Andy Reid's his father. Kyle Shanahan is 0-5 versus Andy Reid. If Kyle Shanahan can't beat the Chiefs, Grant got a point. Right? Like the Chiefs are like the 90s Bulls. And if you can't beat the 90s Bulls, you ain't got no shot. So if Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers can't beat the Chiefs, it's a time to get someone else in here and give them a chance. Somebody that can, like a Ben Johnson who did last year.
It's great that you bring up Ben Johnson, and I'm not saying right now today like, oh, the 49ers need to fire Kyle Shanahan, and I don't think they're going to do that. But I have seen either whether it's fans or content creators, and a lot of what everybody goes to is, oh, if you fire Kyle Shanahan, like who do you hire? It's like, oh, Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions. Like what yeah. is there even a question, right? Like he's one of the hottest names, should have been the head coach after last season, but I don't think he liked what was out there. I think now in hindsight, if he saw like, oh man, this Jaden Daniels kid, he's pretty damn good, maybe he would have taken the Washington Commander job. But there are names out there, even if they're maybe not as hot to the casual fan. But as far as Kyle Shanahan goes, and you see this, you do at some point have to figure it out. I remember one point the 49ers, they were looking for a new head coach, and I think this was after they fired Chip Kelly. They fired Tom Sula, and they're like, all right, who's the next head coach they're going to be? And I'm like, they need to go get Rex Ryan. And the reason why I wanted the 49ers to get Rex Ryan is because at that time the Seattle Seahawks, they were dominating the 49ers. And I knew like you need a special someone to kind of come in and be able to take charge of that, like what that stranglehold that Pete Carroll has over the 49ers. And for me, being in the building, being under Coach Rex Ryan and seeing it firsthand, like how he interacts with the players, how he interacts with, the media. And I think sometimes people, he came off as like this cocky guy, but he breathed that arrogance into his team as well. And for a team that I was a part of in 2013 with the Jets, that won 8 games. Like that team had no business winning 8 games. But there was one thing that I took away from Rex that I always remember. He was not scared or intimidated by anyone. It didn't matter if it was the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, and you could kick his ass, and guess what? He's gonna have that same level of confidence coming back. I'm gonna beat them next time, right? Like you knock me down, I'm getting back up and I'm gonna beat you. And he truly believed that. And I feel like right now the 49ers are getting knocked down over and over by Kansas City, but it doesn't feel like the man in charge, it doesn't feel like the head man is breathing a certain level of confidence in the 49ers. I watched the team yesterday while dealing with some injuries that were unfortunate, but they were just flat. And I felt like played with a lack of confidence. And I felt like that oozed throughout the offense, a unit that you expect to, be a little bit more outgoing with how they operate. And from the start, it was just shut down. You have no chance. We're going to dominate you. And I think that falls on the shoulders of Kyle Shanahan. Oh, you're mute. You're muted.
My bad. I said agreed. Like people are mad at me because I'm coming at Kyle, and they're like, "Why are you mad at Kyle when Brock threw 3 interceptions?" And it's both. But here's the thing: he's 0-5 against the Chiefs. He's 0-5 against the Chiefs. I don't think Brock played good. He played bad. He threw 3 interceptions, and there was questions about the second one, whose fault was it? But according to Brock and Kyle Shanahan, it was on Brock. Ronnie Bell did pop open, and Brock just made a bad throw. So all 3 of them were on Brock, according to Brock and Kyle Shanahan. He played
Can
bad.
I?
Yeah. Pop
And
in. Yeah.
so I'm looking at the chat right now. 49ers throwback says, considering no separation on anybody, and anybody can outcoach Kyle Shanahan. So I think he's alluding to the fact that 49ers receivers aren't getting a ton of separation. And my big thing with that, right? You can say, oh, the receivers are. I don't think the offense does anything to help receivers, especially against man coverage. There's not a lot of motion. There's not a lot of, hey, we're going to spread out. We're going to do this. It's like line up, just beat this guy in front of you. And if you watch around the league, teams that have a little bit more intricate passing games, they make it much more difficult to just play man coverage on their receivers with their concepts, with their motions, with their stacks, with their bunches. They make it much more difficult. So every offense isn't just, hey, let's line up, got our X, got our Z, and beat them with a post. Like, no, it's difficult to win like that at the NFL level when you're playing against good defensive backs, especially when you're playing against a really good defensive coordinator who clearly has a beat on what you want to do offensively. So this separation thing with the 49ers, I think there's times where we see big gaping holes, but that's because Kyle Shanahan's passing concept versus schemed up versus zone works very well. But when teams are like, hey, we're just going to man up the 49ers, a la the Baltimore Ravens, or like we saw with the Minnesota Vikings and what they did to the Niners, or obviously the Kansas City Chiefs, you do need to have the personnel to be able to do that. But when teams have the personnel and they attack the 49ers that way, you see the 49ers offense struggle. So when we talk about separation, it's not just always predicated on just the receivers. Your concepts have a big part to do with this. And Jay Gruden noted this as well when he said, hey, 49ers, if you want to look at run game, and I think this is part of Kyle Shanahan too. A lot of people talk about Kyle Shanahan being an offensive genius. Kyle Shanahan and the Shanahans, his family, the Kubiaks, this scheme, they are run game geniuses. They are run game innovators. But as Jay Gruden alluded to, if I have to pick passing game concepts, the 49ers in the Shanahan offense isn't the first one I'm going to watch how they're being able to just drop back and throw the ball around. So, those are a couple of different things right there that I think some people, as far as context goes, kind of leave out.
I'm glad you brought that up, man. That's an excellent point. A lot of people aren't realizing it, and there's been a lot of former NFL coaches. Jerry Gruden's one of them. There's been a lot of players that have come out and said the exact same thing. I mean, you see J.L. Sullivan talk about Kyle Shanahan's passing scheme, his drop back passing scheme. Like the 49ers are good when they're running the ball well and they can, run play action and they're in control of the game. They have a good offense, but if it's straight drop back pass, there's a lot of people, a lot of experts throughout the NFL that just don't think they do a good job of it. And I think you brought up a great point there. And here's the other thing too. It's like, do 49er fans really expect us to have like 3 Jerry Rices on this team? I mean, these receivers are capable. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk went down. Brandon Ayuk was a good receiver before that. He was getting enough separation. Juwan Jennings does his things, uses his body position to get open and make tough contested catches. Debo's not great on separation, but I mean, and here's the other thing: Jacob Cowling, super fast. When we see him, when we've seen him, he's got separation. And then here's the other thing: we'll get into Brock Purdy, but George Kittle gets a ton of separation. George Kittle got separation yesterday. Cowling got separation yesterday, and Brock Purdy didn't lead them on those throws. And both of them could have been touchdowns had he led those guys. So it's not on Brock, it's not on Kyle, it's on both to me on the way this offense is being orchestrated, man. We got some super chats real quick, and I want to talk to you about Brock, bro. Dave Barkley says, "Do I still believe? Did I ever believe?" Oh, he's talking about the poll. I asked if people believed in Kyle Shanahan. I think it was at like 70% said no right now.
Wow.
It's just fire, which is a large amount. Read Todd's comments. I can't go back, but I shout out to Todd in the description. I don't want to sort through that right now, but thank you, Dave. J. Mike, Kyle is good offensive genius, but a terrible play caller. He's not. We use the word genius too much. If Kyle Shanahan's a genius, then what is Andy Reid? Like,
there, that's my argument, right? I see these like little, Instagram reels and stuff, and this guy's going around and he's asking women, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, what are you? And you got some women that's like, oh, I'm a 9 or I'm a 10, and this girl's a 10. And it's like, all right, well, so if this girl's a 10, does that mean that she's the most beautiful woman in the world? Like, what is a 10? Right? Like, there's not a lot of 10s. There can't be, right? There's not a lot of 9s. There's not a lot of 8s. Heck, even for us men. So, I think for Kyle Shanahan and being an offensive genius is like, all right, so if he is a genius, then what is Andy Reid? Because whatever Andy Reid is a step above what Kyle is right now. So I wouldn't say he's an offensive genius, but I will say again, if you want to call him a creative run game guru, I will give you that. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are stealing a lot of his run game concepts, the blocking schemes, how they're doing things. People probably steal that a lot. But as far as passing goes, I don't think so. So, I think you got to take away the genius part. If you can't function once certain guys lead the offense, like I'm watching Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, shell of himself, not great this year. Isaiah Pacheco, he's done, right? That's their starting running back. That's their guy. He's out of there. All right. They had to pick up Kareem Hunt off the street. Their number one receiver, Rashee Rice, gone. Torn ACL, whatever's going on with his knee, he's done for the year, right? Loses Juju Smith-Schuster before the game even starts, really, right? So, 49ers, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. And then you look across the way, and it's like, well, Kansas City's dealing with the same thing. And they figured out a way to be 6-0 throughout all that. So we want to call somebody a genius in figuring things out. And that's not the best offensive version of Kansas City that we've seen. But as far as patchwork goes and just figuring out ways to where, hey, man, we are not at our best. We're not 100% loaded. We are banged up, but we still got to go out there and we got to play good football and we still got to win. The genius has figured out how to do that at a very high level.
Yeah, man. I mean, the genius word is way overused. And to be real, like Kyle Shanahan is just using a version of his dad's offense. It's not like what did he invent? What did Kyle, to me, a genius is somebody that like invents something, brings something new that's never been seen before. What has he invented? He's running his dad's shit, like an altered version of his dad's stuff. And his dad didn't even invent that. If we're being real, it's like there might be one genius in the history of NFL, honestly, is Bill Walsh created like the West Coast offense. I mean, if you want to call someone a genius, that's your genius. Ben Johnson's better than Kyle right now offensively. Andy Reid is better than Kyle offensively. There's a few of them. So yeah, and I'm not coming at you, Jay Mike. I'm tired of
I
that.
like that you just noted Ben Johnson, right? When you watch his team, they can beat you offensively so many different ways. Do you want us to throw the ball around a lot? Do you want us to run the ball with finesse? Do you want us to run and turn into a power team? We can be all those things. Do we have to just be a drop back passing offense? And all of a sudden he has Jared Goff, playing games and like without throwing incompletions, right? I think yesterday he threw 3 incompletions, but he started out like 13 for 13, just figuring out, hey, whatever style of play is needed for us to win the game, we're able to do that. And I don't know if the 49ers are capable of doing that same thing.
Right, right. And then here's the other reason why I want Ben Johnson, man. Ben Johnson, I don't know who's responsible for it. Probably Campbell, based on Campbell's personality. I feel like it's Campbell, but they prioritized that offensive line over there in Detroit. Kyle does not. That's another problem I have with Kyle Shanahan. He thought his scheme is good enough to where you don't need to focus on the offensive line and invest in it. You can get by with a certain type of player in the later rounds that works for the running game and ignore the pass protection. I don't buy that shit, man. I'm old school. Like the game is one in the trenches that you've heard. That's like the oldest expression in football. I truly believe in that. Kyle doesn't. Ben Johnson saw the Lions develop their team that way, and I would assume he would do the same thing if he came over here.
And again, I don't want to be the person like leading the band or the marching band to fire Kyle Shanahan, but I do hate when people just act like there's no other options out there that can potentially help figure out what's going on with the 49ers or add to what the 49ers have. I think there's definitely great benefits to having Kyle Shanahan as the head coach. He clearly gets guys behind him. I think he's been a terrific leader for the 49ers. He holds guys accountable. There are people that said that he was trying to protect Ronnie Bell for saying that Brock Purdy just made a bad throw. And I'm like, when has Kyle ever just been like, I'm just going to protect this player? Like, no, he's always told us how it is. That's one thing. If the 49ers front office, whether it's Shanahan or John Lynch, if there's one thing that they do maybe too much, it's tell you exactly how they feel about something. And so he's not protecting guys, but he holds guys accountable. And I think within that, because everybody understands what the standard is, he gets guys behind him. And there are things that I think he does extremely well. But to say that there's nobody else that could come in and coach this 49ers team, I think that's kind of bullshit a little bit. And I think that's people. That's like being a woman. I don't know if I should use this analogy, but you're a woman and I'm married. Married to this rich man, and he has his money, and you live a lavish lifestyle, but he's verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, right? Like treats you wrong, treats you like crap, cheats on you, and it's like, well, if I leave him, like, is there anybody else that I could live? Like, no, you don't know till you try. Yeah. And you go out there and maybe you find somebody that's better suited to treat you right. And I think right now we're getting emotionally abused by Kyle Shanahan. And that ain't to say that, right now it's time to step away. But I could see a scenario where, like, no, there are other people out there that would treat us good.
I mean, that's the thing. I tweeted that out. Like, having Kyle Shanahan as your head coach is like being married to a good-looking, rich woman who treats you like shit. That's how I described it. And that's the thing is, like, for me, it's this: make the playoffs. If you don't, you're out of here. That's how I feel. And all these fans, what do you want to go back to Chip Kelly, Jim Tomsula? No, we don't want to go back to that. That's not what we're saying. Why? It's not one or the other. It's not Kyle Shanahan or Jim Tomsula. It's find somebody new, man. Find somebody better. And if you miss on the next one, keep going. And yes, will Kyle Shanahan be hired if we fire him? Yes, he will. And good for him. And he might go on and win a Super Bowl because of luck into a situation that is perfect for him. He has a good quarterback, whatever. I don't care. He's not right for us. If you can't beat the Chiefs, it's 8 years in. You're 0-5 against Kansas City. I'm cool, man. Make the playoffs or you're out of here, man. I want Ben Johnson. That's how I feel right now.
Hey, here's a good one right here. Wiley Jones in the chat says, I'm 13 minutes behind on the topic of Ben Johnson. Can we look at what he looks like against good defensive coaches? I can't. I'm not going to look at their schedule and go back and nitpick everything. But I will say this. They played a damn good defensive coach yesterday, right? Wasn't it the Lions versus the Vikings? Yeah. And the Vikings were undefeated. And one of the things that's carrying the Vikings a little bit is Brian Flores and that Vikings defense. How many points did the Detroit Lions put up?
A lot.
What did Detroit need to do to go win that game, right? Yeah. You know, so will they put up 30 points? Hold on,
30
hold on,
something,
hold on.
30 something. And Kyle's old, Kyle hasn't beat Flores as a defensive coordinator. And the Lions, Ben Johnson's offense went up and put like 30 something points on him and beat him yesterday.
31 to 29. Whatever I got to do to win this game, I'm gonna win this game, right? So that's Ben Johnson's offense against a really good defense.
There you go. That's the answer right there. We got some more super chats, brother. I saw JM617. Ryan want to cry. What do I want to cry about? What do I want to cry about? I wanted to comment on that. What are you talking about, bro? J Mike, Kyle's a good offense. We saw that one. Corey Soto, my stats for Brock Purdy going in the game were 180, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks. Pretty on. Yeah, you got to switch the interceptions and the sacks, though. 49er fans, you may a starting quarterback, but you definitely don't have a guy. Ralph, we're going to talk about Brock. Ralph says, time to ramp up Ricky P and Cowing finally. That's another thing that pissed me off about Kyle, man. Like when you give Cowing opportunities, he seems to ball out. He's got the speed. We're talking about separation. Well, let Cowing get a shot. J. Mike Reed is both. Kyle can draw up a great play, but the time he uses them are bad. He can draw up good run plays. Neil Pink Hanya, what is your take on Kyle confronting Brock? Okay, so did you hear about this? Kyle went up to Brock in the locker room and was like lecturing to him using hand gestures and talking with his hands in front of the entire media after the game. Did you hear about that? What do you think about it?
No, I didn't hear about that. I will say this, especially, I talked about him getting people behind him, players behind him, and being a leader. I think there's a time and a place for everything and a way to address certain things. I feel like, even if you are going to, I think your quarterback, that's a delicate situation and a delicate position. 100% confront him. 100% hold him accountable if there are things you feel like he wasn't doing to the standard you believe he can do it at, right? But doing that in front of the media, I would say that's not something I would do. Now, hold him accountable to the media, right? Hey, Ronnie Bell, the interception with the pass thrown to Ronnie Bell, was that on Ronnie Bell for a bad route or was that on Brock? That's on Brock. It was just a bad pass. All right, like hold him accountable for that. Yeah. But lecturing him in front of the media, I'm not sure I would go about it that way.
I definitely wouldn't. It's almost like he wanted to show everybody that it's not his fault. It's Brock's fault. Let me lecture Brock in front of everybody so they know I'm mad at Brock. Like, and holding people accountable is cool as long as you do it to yourself. Your team is not going to respect you. You're a coach. I'm a coach. I never coached pro players, but if I'm holding everybody else accountable but myself publicly, then your team's going to lose respect for you, in my opinion. If there's things that you could have done differently and you don't acknowledge those, but you only point out things that your players are doing wrong, that's not good leadership, in my opinion. John Munez, real talk, you guys. You think we're beating the Cowboys? I wanted to get to that actually, but let's hold off. John, I appreciate the super chat. We're going to answer that. It's on the agenda. It's on the agenda today. But we talked about Kyle, man. But let's talk about Brock. Obviously, Brock has something to do with this as well. But so right now, before Monday Night Football, Brock is ranked 22nd in completion percentage at 63.9 and is tied for the 4th most interceptions in the NFL with 7. He's tied for 11th in touchdowns with Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams. He's 12th in QBR and 17th in rating. He's trending 22 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. None of that is good, man. Talk to me about Brock. What's going on with him? Is this who he is?
I would like to look at the stats for Patrick Mahomes, right? The guy on the other side. And off the top of my head, I don't know how many yards and where he's at with completion percentage, but I do know at this moment right now, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So, like for me, if you are playing without guys, right? Like, it's like, okay, I'm fighting this fight. I don't have all my weapons at my disposal. And people want to know, man, what would Brock look like in that moment, right? Can you still figure out a way to, just when it matters most, come through for your squad? And I think that's why we look at Patrick Mahomes the way we do. Mahomes isn't viewed as like damn near the greatest quarterback of my generation because every year he's throwing 50 touchdowns and getting league MVP. It's because no matter the circumstances and no matter how I play for 3 quarters, when it's on the line, and it's that fourth quarter, I'm going to figure out a way to win this game. So for Brock Purdy, to me, it's not even about those stats and looking good. That's what people always like. Stats can be manufactured. I could throw a bunch of screens and inflate his completion percentage. I can throw a bunch of 1-yard touchdown passes like I would see, Peyton Manning do a lot, and increase his touchdown passes on the season. I can tell him, hey, be a little safer and not turn the ball over. But in key moments, how do you play? And I think that's the biggest measure of what you're getting from a guy, like, and how great a guy is. Can he figure out how to get his team over a hump when everything is kind of snowballing on him? And that's why Mahomes is great, because I've watched him in Super Bowls throw interceptions, missed passes, fourth quarter picks. But when it comes down to it, you need that play. I'm going to make that play. And he does it every single time, it feels like. Cam Brock, a guy who we know can play very well, and he play at a high level. Right now, it's not great. You're missing, now you're going to be missing Ayuk for the year. You're missing CMC already. You're missing Debo. All right, I don't care about your stats, Brock. But when your team needs you to make a play, can you not try to force a pass to Chris Conley, who's bracketed on the goal line, where he's getting picked off? Can you not? I saw this stat. He threw 3 picks yesterday. All 3 were in Kansas City's territory. That's taking points off the board. Like, those are the things. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're down. You can't do that. So how does Brock play in those moments? Forget the completion percentage and all that stuff. I need you to win this game for us when it's on the line.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like to see. Again, you don't got, I get it. But what do right now, what do people expect him to get? 60 million a year? 65 a year? Right? Whatever it is, right? It's a lot of money. You're going to be paid the highest guy. So if you're going to be paid like that, then there's a certain standard that you have to be able to play with. At least you hope. And if you're not playing to that standard, then people, the media, people talking heads like you and I, we're going to hold you accountable for that. Dak Prescott, why does he take so much heat? Because in the biggest moments, he shrinks.
Right.
So, Brock, you're going to be along those lines as well, where in the biggest moments, are you going to shrink or not? And I think regardless of, again, those numbers, whatever, but right now he's shrinking in the biggest moments for us.
Yeah, what you're talking about is the it factor, right? When people say he has it, Patrick Mahomes has it. Brock Purdy hasn't shown us that he has it yet. In fact, he's missed out on a couple opportunities to show us. Against the Rams, Brandon Ayuk, deep, wide open. That's a game winner right there. You make that throw and you connect and you win the game. That's it.
That's a regular season game, though. You talk about it factor. We watched this in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Where, 49ers are trying to win. I don't remember I'm 37 years old. When the 49ers won the Super Bowl that 94-95 season, like, I don't remember it. I don't remember it. It's been a really long time. You know what I'm saying? So what is it going to take for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl? It's very clear. They got to make, sometimes it's like you got to make that play that's not there to be made. So regular season, you missed throw, whatever. Super Bowl, there were plays that were
he could have won that game.
That were going to be very challenging to make, but you got to figure out a way to make that play. Because, again, what you're going up against, that guy does it.
Yeah.
So when I look back on the Super Bowl and I look at the double slants and you throw to the first window and the ball is batted down, you throw to Juwan Jennings when Ayuk is up. Like, I'm not saying that, oh, man, you're just terrible because you didn't make that play, or, oh, man, that's the reason why the 49ers lost. But I do know one thing. That's the reason why the 49ers didn't win. You know what I'm saying? Because if he hits Ayuk and converts, now that's at the 2-minute warning, you kill the rest of the clock. Instead, you kick a field goal, it gives Chiefs an opportunity to go down and kick a field goal, tie the game up. So, like, things like that, like keeping the ball out of their hands.
Yeah.
How can you figure out a way to make that play? The free runner, you got Ayuk open in the back of the end zone. He's never going to see Ayuk. He's looking front side. You got Chris Jones running right at you. I'm not going to say that's the reason why you lost because of this, or Brock's bad because of this. But I do know one thing. If you're a guy, then you somehow just figure out how to make that play. Hey, I somehow figure out just to make a good enough pass to Jennings instead of selling it out of bounds like it did. Or I somehow figure out under these terrible circumstances how to find Brandon Ayuk who's wide open in the back of the end zone. And I'm not knocking him for not doing it, But I
Right.
am saying if you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to do those things. So you
Yeah.
talking about a throw in the regular season. I think these are things in the postseason as well, especially in the Super Bowl, because that's the expectations of 49ers. Brock got to figure out, you got to figure out that. But if you
Yeah.
just want to say he's a terrific quarterback and not have those kind of lofty expectations, then yeah, he's for sure really good.
I tell my sons and I tell my players, it's something I always say. You can have excuses or you can have results, but you can't have both. And I just want results. I don't want to hear your excuses. Oh, I don't have this guy. I don't have this guy. Like I want results. If you're that dude, get the results, man. Like my wife doesn't want to hear, like if I don't sell a bunch of houses and can't pay the bills. My wife doesn't want to hear my excuses why. She just wants to see the results, man. That's reality. John Munez, do you think that this team will even make the playoffs once CMC comes back? I don't. This team has no heart, and guys just want to get paid. It is the quest for checks this year. Do you think the 49ers make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I think so. You know, this is a team that we've seen down and out. We've seen 3-5. They figured out. I think the one thing they have working for them right now is there's not like that dominant team in the NFC West. So heading into the season, obviously lofty expectations, win the Super Bowl, right? Like 49ers Super Bowl favorites and all that. But there is a goal, like even before you can reach that, and it's win your division. And right now, the 49ers NFC West division, it's not great. Yes, you have Seattle basically a half game ahead of you at 4-3 when you're 3-4, but you currently own the tiebreaker. So they're not out of it. You win your division, you're in, you're good. Heck, 49ers can play against Dallas Cowboys next week, beat the Cowboys, Seattle lose a game, and you're right back in first place. So do I think 49ers win the playoffs? Yeah, I definitely, or go to the playoffs. I definitely do.
Yeah, I think they have a good chance of getting there. Actually, we'll talk about the Cowboys game. I'll tell you right now, I think they're gonna beat the Cowboys, but like, are they going to do anything when they get there? That's where I have my doubts. AB, why not do live watch longs during the game? Crock and us last year, Crock and I talked about doing like going to his house and doing it. I know the coach's huddle. He does a good job of it. When I watch games, man, I'm gonna be real. I'm hella quiet. I'm not like one of them dudes like jumping up and I'm like just focused and dialed in. So watch party for me, it probably wouldn't be very interesting. I would say go watch coach, but
Yeah,
let Crock.
I don't because all my everything is like streaming. So I'm like
Yeah.
30 seconds behind, or sometimes I could be like 45 seconds behind. So
Mhm.
if I'm streaming live and I'm talking to you guys, like y'all might have already seen the damn play, and then 2 plays later, I finally get there. So I
Yeah.
think that's the only reason why I don't go live. I can't find a television service that's like live. Like I tried Xfinity, they're streaming now.
Mhm.
Maybe I could do Direct TV. I don't know. I need to know what everybody else is using.
Yeah. Croc would probably be interesting to watch. The coach is very interesting to watch. He's got a lot of energy and emotion involved. So I would go watch the coaches huddle in the meantime. You won't see me doing it. I prefer to just I like quiet. I don't like nobody around me. I just want to dial in on the game. That's how I approach it. John says to Crocky's point, if you hold Purdy to a standard for money being paid, why not hold Kyle to the same? Seems like Kyle always gets a pass from the media. No, he gets extensions. I said that was stupid. People got mad at me. Why did you there was no reason to extend him. Like you gotta have these guys be hungry, man. Like he's too comfortable to me, man. Like I never understood why they gave him an extension so quick. And then we got more to talk about too. But Harris says, why do fans treat Brock like their little bro? I think it's because he's a nice dude, man. He's just a good dude. He's hard to root against. Like he's a good guy, man. I want him to have. He's got a good story. He's an underdog. I want to see him have success. It's hard to be mean to the kid. To be honest, he does feel like a little bro. What do you think, Croc?
I look at it not even like little bro. It's like their little child, and no parent likes to hear anything bad about their children. Me, I keep it super real with my kids.
Yeah.
So you could tell me there's nothing you could tell me about my kids that I don't already know or I haven't accepted or try to like figure out how to get them better at it, right? Like you could talk about, let's say my one of my kids, right? Let's say my daughter, and it's like, hey man, I don't know if she a 400 runner. And it's like, we're going to figure out how to get her to be a 400 runner. Like, I just take everything as a challenge. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to use that as an example. But, I think people just need to know how to be real and accept people and things for who they are and what they are and appreciate them for that. So, with Brock Purdy, a lot of times I think you can't say anything bad about him. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, why not? Like, he's not perfect. He is a
Right.
really good quarterback. But he's not
Yeah.
perfect. There are areas he can improve on. He doesn't have the biggest arm. They try to show these plays that, like, okay, because you could throw a ball 50 yards, doesn't I can throw a ball 50 yards. That does not mean you
Mhm.
have a strong arm.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that because you have a strong arm, you're better than Brock Purdy. It's just acknowledging one thing that is kind of out there, glaring, like you could see it at times. But people want to be defensive of that as if it's their little brother or it's their child. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know why they do that.
They went ape shit for Jimmy G too, man. To be real, I gotta run
They
this.
act like they never did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know
They
they do
act like
act
they
like.
never did. My
Yeah.
timeline, I challenge people on that all the time. Is like the conversations that people are having about Brock, outsiders, all right, not 49 fans, outsiders. The conversations to the 49er fans are exactly the same.
Mm.
And they, well, no, look at he's better at this stat and this metric, and look at this, and Jimmy never did it. Like Jimmy was top 5 in a lot of categories
He
and was
was.
winning hella football games. You
Yeah.
could say that they're, Brock more mobile, whatever the case, but the conversation was the same.
Yeah.
And the fans were just as defensive of Jimmy as they are Brock until they had enough reasons to not be super defensive of Jimmy. And
Mhm.
if Brock continues to play like he played yesterday, guess what? The fan base will turn on Brock Purdy eventually too.
Yeah. Facts, man. I gotta run this sponsor ad. 17 seconds. Croc and I got a lot more to talk about. And also a new segment for Croc. Give us 17 seconds. We'll be right back.
The Ryan G. Hensley Show is powered by the law office of Chris McCurgy. Chris McCurgy and his team have been empowering businesses, guiding families, and taking care of the injured since 2012. In California, for estate planning, business, or personal injury, be smart and contact Chris McCurgy.
Hit up Chris McCurgy for all your attorney needs, business law, family estate planning, as well as personal injury. Good dude, 49er fan. He comes on Thursday at around 10 o'clock on all my shows and gives free legal tips. So hit up Chris, man. He's a good dude. We're going to get into this Cowboys game, record prediction, stuff like that. I do want to talk positives because there were some positives in this game. I don't want to, I know a lot of people are feeling negative and they just want to vent, and I get it. And there's a lot of negative. I understand that. But I also do want to point out guys that did good. And we're going to start with a new segment for my guy Croc right now. And I think there might be a guy good, one or two guys that might have been good.
It's time for Croc's Corner. It's time for Croc's Corner.
So,
All right, man. Hey,
yeah.
welcome to Croc's Corner, where we're talking all things cornerbacks or defensive backs. And, specifically today is going to be about San Francisco 49ers and one, the only that calls himself the hyena, Diamondor Lenoir. I got to give my props and talk about and highlight some of the things he's doing. This is a guy that has probably one of the toughest challenges on defense, playing outside, playing in the slot. He's the 49ers nickel defensive back, and he takes on the challenge of having to play in space. But the things that stood out to me, there were two plays in particular. One, early in the game, they lined up, the Kansas City Chiefs lined up Xavier Worthy in the slot, running a slot fade. That is extremely difficult for a cornerback. There's a lot of space. Whether your receiver has like a two-way go, he can go seam, he can go post, he can go corner, he can go out, slant. But there's a lot of space that you have to cover. And then watch Diamondor Lenoir run stride for stride, step for step on a slot fade against Xavier Worthy. That jumped out. I was really excited about that. I mean, that was one of my favorite plays of the game. And the reason why I say one of my favorite plays of the game, because my favorite play of the game was Diamondor Lenoir running a corner route for Xavier Worthy and picking the ball off, taking it into Kansas City Chiefs territory for the 49ers. That was a terrific job. And it takes a lot of confidence within yourself to be able to cover a guy that is clearly faster than you, but you cover him like he runs a 4.6. So today's highlight guy on Crocker's Corner, definitely the hyena, Diamador Lenore. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I think Debo's been playing good all season. Really, he's been one of the few people that's been balling all season. I don't know if he's had a bad game yet. He's doing his thing, man. Where Charvarius Ward has, I think has some kind of injury he's been going through, where he's had a couple ups and downs. But Demo's been consistent. My man's chasing the bag, and I think he's gonna get it. Since we're talking positive, still Croc. What about my guy Malik Mustafa? What do you think? Like, ignore the fact that he got trucked in the end zone by Patrick Mahomes. Let's forget about that part, right? But he did lead the team.
Hold on, real quick. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Like, I think people, they don't understand. And I know the quarterbacks, they're not like all buff and stuff like that, but they are like big guys. Typically, corners are big. You know, Mahomes is probably 6'2", 6'2 and a half, 230 pounds. And so when you're running at somebody that's like 190 pounds, like we're talking about a 40-pound difference.
Yeah.
All right. So I get it. They're quarterbacks. And in theory, you're thinking, you know, Hostetler, Rich Gannon, all these guys, maybe even like a Drew Brees is somebody who's smaller, right? But like these quarterbacks who aren't athletic and won't, like Patrick Mahomes is a good athlete, and he's not small.
Yeah.
And he can generate a little bit of velocity. So him running through Mustafa, which he did, it's like, hey, you're gonna lose some of those because those dudes are hella big. They are.
Yeah. And I feel like when I was watching, I watched it back because I'm a big Malik dude. I wanted him before the draft, and when they drafted it, I'm like, this is the one guy that I have confidence in. Turns out Pooney's pretty damn good, and some other dudes as well. But so I got a little Malik Mustafa bias, so I watched back the play. I'm like, how did this go down? It felt like he was trying to go for the ball, and he really didn't expect Patrick to lean into him. It felt like when I was watching it back. So
the tough thing too with going to hit quarterbacks is there's this, do I 100% commit and go all in? Like, let's say a running back, right? With a running back, he's coming through the hole, 100%. I'm about to throw everything at this guy. I'm gonna go try to level him. With quarterbacks, you want to think like that, but you're also thinking, is he gonna slide? Like, is he gonna slide last second? Am I gonna be able to ease up? So these things are kind of going through your mind, and then before you know it, he's like right here on you, and he runs you over. So not making excuses for Mustafa. He got banged, but I could see how that happens with quarterbacks because they're so protected.
Yeah, and regardless, he was in the end zone anyways, so it didn't affect like the outcome of the game. It's just, you don't want to get trucked by a quarterback, but he led the team in tackles.
It's even worse. You're like hanging on his leg and stuff, Like, it looked bad. It looked bad.
Right, but he did lead the team in tackles, 6 tackles, solo, and some of them were some bangers. He covers a lot of ground, man. What do you think of just Malik in general as a player outside of, like, let's forget about that play, everything else?
No, I like him, man. As a safety, I've been banging the table for the 49ers to draft a safety high, right? Like a guy that, really gives you terrific coverage skills while also being able to come and be a thumper, right? Playmaking type guy. I still to this day, and McGlinchey was a good draft pick for the 49ers. Was he 9th overall? Did you get that value? You got a 4-year starter. So, that's solid. But man, I wanted Minka Fitzpatrick. And I thought he was a guy that just gave you a little bit more. And obviously we've seen that at the NFL level. He's been an all-pro safety. There was Derwin James that kind of passed on that kind of safety as well. I've been wanting, there was even a guy I really liked him, Juan Thornhill, who was Kansas City Chief, but and towards ACL, I don't think Thornhill was quite the same after that. But I've always wanted kind of that guy who twitchy, good coverage skills, basically Jimmy Ward, right? Like, can I find more Jimmy Ward type guys? And those guys we go higher. Even Jimmy Ward coming out of a smaller school, like he was still a first-round pick. Mustafa, not that, but I do think he brings good value. And you watch him and you watch Green and those guys kind of continue to, get gain confidence, continue to gain experience and make plays and understand what they can and can't get away with whatever their ability is. So far, I think the return on Mustafa and really a lot of the 49ers rookies has been very encouraging.
Yeah, man. I'm still high on Malik. He reminded a little Dante, man. A little the way he hits. I forget who it was. He ran up to the line of scrimmage on the outside and just face to face with somebody. I forget who it was. So he's fun to watch to me, man. Quick, covers a lot of ground. So I'm still big on Malik. I mean, Fred didn't have the best game yesterday, man. If we're being real, Fred got skirted by Patrick Mahomes, so he wasn't in my. Normally, he's always in my positives. But George Kittle, man, what was it? I should have had the stats up. I apologize, but like 96 yards on 5 catches for George Kittle. What are you seeing from George Kittle, man, especially in this game?
I think a lot of people want to say that he's lost a step, but I don't think so. I think he plays well. I think he's a guy that, and I think he got 6 for like 92. But I think he's a guy that is a little still kind of underutilized a little bit in the offense. Like yesterday, and I'm looking at the stats now. Um, 6 catches, 92 yards on 7 targets.
Mm-hmm.
In a game like yesterday, when you lose Ayuk, you lose Debo, and you're out there with Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowan, how doesn't he have 12 targets? How doesn't he have 13 targets? Right? Because the more targets you get him and the more creative ways you utilize him, the more opportunity he has for a big catch and run, the more opportunities he has to make some big plays. And I feel like with Kyle Shanahan, the way he runs his offense is just, I've talked about this with Brandon Ayuk, in his targets. One game he might get 8, 9 targets. Another game he might get 3 or 4, right? And you never know what it's going to be because Kyle doesn't say, "Hey, I want to feature this guy in my passing game." He just wants to run his offense. So I think sometimes, hey, let's get away from just running our offense and let's feature a guy like George Kittle who clearly still has ability to win vertically, win with routes. He's catching tough passes. He still has really good run after catch ability. I think he's a little underutilized right now. And the 49ers are going to definitely need to feature him a lot more in his offense.
Agreed, man. Any other positives for you? We talked about Demo. That was a positive for me. George Kittle, Malik Mustafa. I think Pooney played okay. Jordan Mason played okay, not great. But are there any other positives from this game?
Yeah, I think the the defensive line, it's tough. Mahomes puts a lot of pressure on you. Because he could take off, he will take off. And he had a 30-some-yard run, early in the game. He'll utilize his legs. So you have to be very disciplined in your rush lanes. But, I think they overall did a good job of, making him throw some passes before he wanted to, making him think about how that pass rush was coming. Mahomes didn't have the best game. What was he?
Bad game. It was his worst
Under
passing game. His worst
50%
passing game.
passing. I mean,
Yeah.
150 yards, no touchdowns,
Yeah.
2 picks. But again, he makes the plays when it's needed to be made, and
When it
that's
matters.
even better than any stats he could put up. But it just shows that to the level of what that defensive line, how they were playing. And I thought that they made him very uncomfortable for most of the game. So shout
Yeah.
out to the 49ers defensive line. I think they played well.
And the defensive backs, man, they held him to 145 passing yards, his worst. What was it? QBR of the season or something like passer rating of his career or something like that. I mean, they did a good job. The DBs, you got to give them credit for that. I got one question about the game itself from you. You saw Patrick Mahomes kind of act like he was going to go out of bounds and then said, "Nope, I'm not going out of bounds," and take off as a defensive player, someone who played the game. What do you think about that? Is there like should you just hit him anyway? He's in bounds. It should just hit him. Should that be it? Or is there some kind of consequence? Like, should there be a penalty to fake slide and then keep going, or to fake go out of bounds and keep going? Or is that just the game? Hit them if they're in bounds.
I think it's bullshit. Not just it's not just a Mahomes thing. I think a lot of quarterbacks around the NFL, they do this. They want to. There's a couple things they do that piss me off. One is the late slide. You have a guy that is committed to hitting a player. The quarterback can give himself up whenever he wants to give himself up. So I don't
Yeah.
have to wait until this guy is committed to tackling me, leaving his feet and going to hit me. And when I slide, it changes the target area, right? Like let's say you're running at me, Ryan. You're just running at me, and I want to go hit you. I'm gonna aim for like your waist, right? I'm gonna aim for your waist, with my shoulder, and that's gonna be a clean hit, right? Like you're running at me, you want to lower your shoulder, I want to aim for your waist, boom, I hit you. But if at the last second I know I'm aiming for your waist and you decide to drop your body and slide, what was your waist is now your head.
Mm-hmm.
and I've already committed to that target area, and now I hit you. Well, it's a flag, but you had the opportunity to slide way before I was even close to contacting you. So the
Yeah.
late slide pisses me off, and I think it puts the defenders in a really bad position. A lot of times, trying to avoid hitting this guy, they damn near might hurt themselves. And then the sideline thing, it's like, okay, do I let him go and he just goes out of bounds? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they try to tight rope and get every inch that they can get. And then when you do tee off on them, and now all of a sudden their foot, because they're towing that sideline, you don't know exactly if they're gonna go out. Now it's like, okay, well, I gotta hit this guy, and then he steps out, and then you hit him, boom, flags come, and it's like, well, I didn't know if he was gonna go out or not.
Yeah.
It really, a lot of it puts the defenders in the bind. So what they should do is, once you see the quarterback approaching the sideline, you need to call the play dead and really utilize it as a slide. A slide starts. The ball is marked when your slide starts, not where your slide stops. So I think once a quarterback is heading towards that sideline and he eases up like he's giving up his body, blow the whistle right there.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's out of bounds yet or not, blow the whistle. And I think you can make these changes. We saw the fake slide by Kenny Pickett a couple of years ago when he was playing for Pittsburgh,
Yeah. That was dirty.
the
Yeah.
college, where he's out in the open field and he like eases his body like he's gonna slide, and the defenders just stopped. Everybody stopped, and then he just took off running,
Yeah.
and everybody was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at
That's
how he
wild.
fooled them!" And it's like,
Yeah.
but immediately college football said, "Oh no, we gotta outlaw that right now."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they made it to where you can no longer do that. So I think the sideline thing, and this is not just a Mahomes thing, this is quarterbacks around the league. I think as soon as they approach that sideline, blow the whistle.
Agreed, man. Yeah, and they really make defenders' jobs tough out here. We got to get in this Cowboys game, but before we do that, Cryptic with the super chat, appreciate you, sir. Says what we think about Debo's sickness. Seems in big moments he is gone. Also with Purdy, we've seen Hurts after Super Bowl never really recover. We just entertaining Brock Purdy's second full season. Can he still grow, or is he max? So a lot in that super chat. Thank you, Cryptic. So let's talk Debo first. What do you think about sickness? Seems he's gone in big moments. That's his comment. What do you think, Crock?
Yeah, and I think when he says he's gone in big moments, I think we've seen games. Shoot, was it the Packers game? He had to leave in the postseason this last game with a shoulder injury. I think we've seen that several times. Um, I think with Debo Samuel, a lot of these things that come up, it's a guy that I don't know if he takes care of his body the best way he possibly can. I don't want to challenge him, but it does seem like, especially you look at him walking off the field yesterday, maybe he was just a little bloated, but it's like that's a belly. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And are you not working out the same way? I I know myself and a lot of guys I played with, and I remember even going back to my Jets days, watching guys the way they did with the way that they prepared their body. It didn't stop because the football season came. They would lift weights, before practice or after practice. They would do their rehab. They do a lot of things to continue to improve their body so that it holds up throughout the end of the season. So, seeing Debo look a little chunky, like he added some weight, I say that's not ideal. But this seemed to be something different. Seemed to be more of some illness that he was dealing with. Exactly what it was, I'm not sure, but it sounds like it's something that he felt like he couldn't push through.
It's hard. It's hard to make judgments on the man's sickness. We don't know what it was, so I can't really comment too much on that. I will say that Debo Samuel is a wide back. He runs like a running back. He plays like a running back. Therefore, his body's been through a lot of running back type stuff. And if you look at the data, it all suggests that running backs after the age of 28 drop off. So I'll leave it at that. But then he says, also with Purdy, seeing Hurts after Super Bowl never really recover. We're just entering Brock Purdy's second full season. Can he still grow, or is he maxed out, Croc? What's your answer?
I'd say that there's always a chance to improve, from a mental standpoint. Again, I referenced the throwing the ball to Conley, who's bracketed on the red zone, not the smartest thing. It's something that he could potentially learn from. I don't think he's seen every look defensively. So maxed out with physical ability, sure. But the mental aspect of it, I think he's still continuing to grow.
Yeah. One more super two helper man, 1, 2, 3. Even if we hit him before he goes out of bounds, he would get flagged for it. NFL will protect their golden child at all costs. The three-peat is inevitable. I hope not, man. But like if he's in bounds and you hit him, hey, if they're gonna call a flag on something that's not a flag, let him. I'm sorry, but hit him. If he's in bounds, hit him. That's what I would be telling my players. You know, if he's not, let him go. It's that simple, man. That's the rules. All right, Croc. This Cowboy game coming up, man. What do you think the outcome is? How does that go?
Cowboys are a weird team. One, do we have an update on Micah Parsons? Because I think that's a big part of their defense, and they missed him
Uh,
definitely last week.
Melvin, hit
So,
hit us up in the chat, man. Let us know if Micah Parsons is going to be playing. Melvin's a Cowboys fan. He's going to be on the show with me this week, as well as Law Nation, Twins brother, Cowboys content creator. They're coming on the show also. But Melvin, yeah, let me know on that. But go ahead, Croc.
but yeah, so I think Micah Parsons being out there, I think it makes a big difference to their defense. But one thing that the 49ers do very well that it seems like the Cowboys are struggling a little bit against right now is the run. So is Jordan Mason a little healthier? Are you able to run downhill? If you can have some success. Now, the tough thing for the 49ers is, right, because we saw what Detroit did to the Dallas Cowboys and how they ran the
Mm-hmm.
ball. Detroit also had, a lot of their weapons at their disposal, throwing the ball, whether it was uh, Laporta, obviously St. Brown, Jameson Williams, right? Like they have a lot of guys that can hurt you in the passing game to where maybe you can't put all your resources towards stopping the run. Will the Dallas Cowboys be able to? And this is what can help their run game. Their run defense. Hey, we're just gonna lock up on the outside. We got Diggs and we got these other corners. Let's just go man against Debo, who struggles already to beat man coverage. You got Ricky Pearsall. He's young. He wasn't the best man coverage beating guy. And young Jacob Cowan. Let's just go man, lock up on the outside, and put our resources towards stopping the run. If they do that, then I think it could kind of be a little bit more difficult of a game than I think 49er fans are thinking. But the 49ers are able to get the run game going, then you're able to keep the Cowboys a little bit off balance, then obviously that favors the 49ers. So this is a tough one because I think 49ers right now with the injuries to receivers, teams are going to be able to defend them a little different.
You know what's funny? I just remember too. Your brother's a Cowboys fan too, man. You gonna do a show with your brother this week?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
he's
good.
diehard Dallas Cowboy. Shoot, he watch all them shows, the Live Nation and all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
he watches all that stuff.
yeah. Law Nation and Melvin's coming on. But I feel like you got to do a show with your brother this week, man. Last thing says sports says Parsons and Bland are trending towards playing. Interesting, man. Interesting. I think here's the thing. I think the 49ers are going to beat the Cowboys because they dominate the Cowboys. I'm actually going to be at that game. I expect them to win. Uh, the thing is, though, I want to just tell everybody watching this show or who watches this show, don't buy into the hype when they do, because I'm not sold yet. 49ers have not beat a good team yet, and the Cowboys ain't a good team. And I think they're going to beat the Cowboys. I think Brock will have a good game. But I don't want you to buy into the hype because they're not good. Every time we play a good team, we lose. So that's my little word of caution. I think we win. We go into the bye week 4-4. That's what I predicted. I'm gonna stick with it. But just don't buy into the hype when we do because it don't really mean much. We got a tough schedule ahead. They're gonna be playing the Packers in Green Bay. They're gonna be playing the Bills in Buffalo. We got the Buccaneers coming. It's going to be interesting. These Niners got to get their shit together. Croc, just to let you know, man, I got like this little panel of people that help me like with this show, and I got some improvements that I'm making. I've made already that I'm going to continue to make, and I just asked them like who's their best guest on my show, and they all say you, sir. So I just wanted you to know that, give you your flowers publicly, man.
Hey man, well, all the panel people, man, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So shout out to you, brother. We're gonna continue to do this every Monday. Croc, what do you got going on your channel, man? What do you want to plug?
Man, I haven't been as active on my channel. I've done your show, And high school football is kind of taking, like, I'm so focused on our games and I'm watching film on, these high school teams and all that. But I gotta figure out a way to kind of get into more of a groove on my channel and get some more things going.
So,
but obviously, you guys can
on.
catch me on Locked On 49ers. We come at you, 5 days a week. Myself, Brian Peacock. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us the audio versions on Spotify, Apple, all that. So my channel might be a little quiet, but definitely tune in. Locked On 49ers.
And do that. I appreciate you guys. I should be on Grant's usually at 11 today. So catch me on Grant's channel at 11. And then, same time, same place tomorrow. Croc, appreciate you, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Underdog is available in 33 states. Deposit now and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog. Use promo code Hensley. Link in the description. Underdog is the sponsor of the Ryan G. Hensley Show. Hensley Real Estate and Mortgage has been serving all of California since 2009. I would love to help you and your family. Whether you're buying, selling, financing, or refinancing, please reach out. I'd love to help. Visit RyanGHensley.com for more information. Thank you so much for watching the Ryan G. Hensley Show. Your support is greatly appreciated. Please visit RyanGHensley.com to learn more about me and all of my businesses. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. Thanks again for watching. It's much appreciated.